Hello, happy Wednesday. I'm Beverly Hosford. This is Erin Nitschke. We are here on the NFPT Facebook page, National Federation of Professional Trainers, or if you're watching this later, you might be seeing us on YouTube. This is the NFPT live show, episode 58. We are going to talk about six-pack abs today. Do personal trainers need to have six-pack abs? And we're going to talk a little bit about the physiology of what the six-pack is to begin with, probably a little bit about body image, but we would really love to get your input, which is why I'm going to make sure I'm going to post the show on Facebook and Twitter real quick. If you're just joining us, or, if you're watching this later, feel free to share the show. We're looking for opinions here. We're looking for feedback and thoughts about this. Do personal trainers need to have a six-pack, and what is a six-pack anyway? And so let's kick off with some of the anatomy of like what is a six-pack to begin with, because it's funny they call it a six-pack because you actually have 8 sections to your rectus abdominis. So the six-pack is traditionally the rectus abdominis. It's those little segments that go down the front of your abdomen. And I'm not really sure. I think six-pack is because the last 2 sections look more like a V as they head into the inguinal ligament, and then there's actually an abdominal muscle called the pyramidalis that's not in everybody, but it's kind of continuation of the rectus abdominis. And so anyway, I just have to kind of throw that out there, make sure we all are clear that there are actually 8 packs. And so I think when we see this six-pack look on someone, it's because there's no adipose tissue over it, which indicates that they must be very fit and healthy and eat well. But I think we all know that what you see on the outside is not always what's going on the inside. In fact, I saw a friend this last week did a fun little event or fun little thing with some kids where they did candy apples, but some of them were candy onions. And they bit in, and then when you bit in, it was either an onion or an apple, and the kids got to try and guess like which was the apple, which was the onion. And so it's like, you could have the thinnest, most lean person on the planet, and they could be very, very unhealthy. They could have, all kinds of health issues going on. They could have lung cancer. They could, they could be a chronic smoker, and they could still have a six-pack. So like this whole six-pack idea, I think first off, just kind of throwing it out there that the six-pack is your rectus abdominis muscle showing itself.
Right. Yes, exactly. I think one of the biggest points about this is personal trainers, do they need a six-pack? Personal trainers need to be personal, and they need to be real. They need to be somebody that you can relate to. I'm not saying that they should not be in shape. Absolutely, they should be in shape. We all really should be in shape. But I think the biggest mistake is assuming that somehow the presence or absence of that particular physical feature somehow equates to knowledge and efficacy and effectiveness as a trainer. And that's simply not true. I think I've said this before when we were talking about fitness conventions, is you go to a fitness convention and they're not the people on the posters. They're not the airbrushed people with the nice thigh gap or this and that. Like, they're not those people. Yes, there are some of those people that are genetically gifted, we can say, that we all love to hate. But that's not the mainstream. Yes, you do have the aesthetic end of the fitness industry versus the health and fitness piece of it. Totally valid, totally, like if that's your deal, you do you, that's fine. But to be an effective personal trainer, to be successful, no, that's not a requirement. That's not a job requirement. And it certainly will not make or break you in terms of success. It's about what you know. It's about how you relate to people. It's about knowing your business. And furthermore, sometimes that particular physical feature is an impossibility for individuals to achieve. Everybody has a little bit different anatomy. We all have a different genetic ceiling. And think about people that maybe have had serious abdominal surgery, C-sections for one. Not that it's not possible. I'm just not saying that it is always likely. Or someone that had separated abs during pregnancy, or someone that had diverticulitis and had major abdominal surgery. There are sometimes just things that prevent us from achieving that ideal. And I think the ideal is BS, frankly. But yeah, you can't equate that physical appearance or presence or absence of that as, oh, well, that person is going to be a great trainer because he or she has a six pack. Oh, geez, no, that's just not how it works. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always vied for that six pack look, and I could never get it. And my body fat percentage was always in the healthy range. And I think that that's what's really important, is that your body fat percentage is in a healthy range, that your blood pressure, your heart rate, all your vitals, that you don't have any thyroid issues, like that the body is functioning optimally. But I definitely took some criticism over the years because I didn't have a six pack or my stomach didn't look perfect. And now, being not only postpartum one baby, but pregnant with the next one, I look back at pictures of myself in a bathing suit when I was in my 20s, and I'm like, wow, I was skinny, or like, wow, I was really trim. And back then I remember like degrading myself about that because I didn't have the six pack look. I just had a leanish stomach that did have, I always carried the most fat in my stomach. When I would do the body fat testing, it was always the most was like right in my tummy there. And that's just, where I would carry most of my fat. So it was never like skinny, but now comparatively, after getting rid of all my old jeans and everything, I just feel like, and I remember being criticized that like you need to be in like the lowest body fat percentage if you are going to be a personal trainer. And I have to also be very honest and candid here. When I was in college, so this is like, let me think here. Was it 2003? Yeah, like 15 years ago. I was in college 15 years ago. So I remember there was a trainer at the internship I was working at, and she was, a little heavy. In my opinion, she was a little heavy. And I remember in my head, like judging her and thinking, what's she doing being a trainer? Like, she's heavy. But there was like a lot of people that were coming into that gym who were also slightly heavy, and her book was full, she was full, and I never really got to know her that well. She wasn't my internship supervisor. But I'm willing to bet if I'd gotten to know her, she was teaching something that went way beyond the physique look. And, she had these people who were probably following her because she was healthy and not necessarily looking perfect. And so my whole opinion on that has now changed. When I see trainers that don't look perfect and they have like a tribe that is, following them and they're healthy, more kudos to them. Now, granted, I think the trainers still need to practice what they preach. You can't just get away with being heavy, you can't just be like, oh, I'm just heavy and I preach like body love or whatever. Like, I think you still need to be, taking care of yourself at some level.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think that's where the fitness industry can really start to affect change. Is I think the healthiest thing you can do for your clients is to help them develop a relationship with their body that's respectful and kind. And it's something I think all of us still struggle with, especially if we're in the fitness industry, because there is this perception of this ideal. It's just like in anything. But I've said this before, like the ideal doesn't really exist. It exists up here. And it exists in images. It does not exist in a real tangible way for the most part. And it's really about the relationship with the body. And I think that's where we can often fall short as trainers, is we harangue on ourselves so much. Our clients can see that. Like if we're trying to strive for this perfection, it's going to make our clients feel less successful. Not that we shouldn't do our best and live as optimally as we can. Everybody's got an optimal level of wellness. Not everyone's going to achieve the same level for whatever limitations that exist in their particular biology or life. But we need to be able to practice what we preach in terms of like self-love and self-acceptance instead of ridicule and criticism. And that's really hard to do when you're in an industry that is focused on criticism. And not that that's the intention. It's just that we look at it in all kinds of media and all kinds of advertisements. And you go to a conference, or, you flip through a magazine, and it's all about these like half-dressed, really like hard body people. And it's like, what are we doing to ourselves? Like, can we just press pause and step back and look at how freaking ridiculous this is? This isn't the message we need to be spreading. And I still have to work on it. I'm hard on myself, and I'm constantly trying to remind myself that that's not effective. It's not gonna, it doesn't serve you. It does not serve you to sit there and waste your time being self-critical or critical of others. So in my opinion, I think it's the best thing that you can do is to teach your clients about what it means to have a healthy relationship with the body, not fear food, not live restricted, not do things purely out of convention, but just to be accepting and less critical of what you see. And chances are what you see is not what others see. That's the thing. Like, it's almost like we all have a funhouse mirror, and we look in it and we see something completely different than somebody on the outside. And it's pretty interesting if you look at the research, or you look at like Dove did a really great campaign, Everybody Beautiful, a few years ago, and it's something that I show in my classes. And it's pretty compelling to see like how these individuals view themselves versus how other people on the outside view them. So our image of ourselves isn't even close to real. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, and I even take back what I said before. I don't even feel like I'm qualified to say whether someone should or shouldn't have a six-pack, or whether they should or shouldn't be a certain weight, or whether they should or shouldn't practice what they preach. I feel like each person has to live what's true to them. Each trainer has to live what's true to them. And there are standards. You need to be knowledgeable. You need to run a safe program. You need to stay in your scope of practice. But I think at the end of the day, you've got to figure out, like, what do you believe in? What is your truth? And then the people that resonate with that will find their way to you. And if you believe that lean six-pack look is that's part of health, then there are people out there that will work with you. And that's the cool thing about the fitness industry, and if you believe, that it's not needed. I mean, I just think that it's just really important. Like you were just making me realize, like, it's just really important that we each, have our own beliefs. And then everything else you said was hugely truthful. Like, as far as, the way we look at ourselves, body image is a big issue. It's a big problem. We don't need other people criticizing us. We're already critical enough of ourselves. And that's a whole nother discussion that keeps going on. There was a great blog on the NFPT website a couple weeks ago. I'll see if I can grab it here. Written by a male personal trainer, which you don't see as often, about his body image journey. And I am gonna find it. David Rodriguez wrote it. It's just such a wonderful piece because, I feel like this kind of lends itself to a body image discussion, the whole six-pack talk. And we've got Emily says, first time tuning in, great content. Thanks, Emily. Glad you're here. Billy said, just because I don't show six-pack abs doesn't mean I don't have them. A Bachanan. Good quote. Yeah, that's true. We all have a six-pack. It's just whether or not it's showing. Yeah,
right. There might be other groceries on top of it.
Groceries. And then Shaweta, hopefully I'm saying your name right. Let me know. When I was in high school, I played catcher. I had six-pack abs then, AKA the chest protector. Yep. We'll be discussing this, very balanced perspective. Thank you. Yeah, we try to stay balanced and just get a conversation going.
Yeah. And I think the other piece of that is that health isn't about image. It's not about physical appearance. There's so much happening inside, metabolically, mentally, emotionally, and we tend to not focus on those other pieces of the puzzle. And we focus on what we can see because it's tangible, it's measurable, it's objective. And I think that's why that's what makes it so easy. Is there are these, tables and norms and whatever. We could go on about tables of norms all day and how they're established and the level of ridiculousness that sometimes is part of that process. and how we can try to box ourselves in. And I think reference ranges are really important, but they're not someplace to live. And we can get way too focused on, we just like a dog with a bone, we just grab onto this little range that we need to be in because, well, this table of norms says so. And, the thing is if you look at tables and norms 30 years ago to now, they're totally different. So where you were supposed to be back then, not even where you are now, and not even where you're supposed to be now. So we can put way too much stock and value in what a little box or a category tells us. It's still good knowledge. It still represents findings from literature of well-controlled studies, which is important. We're always going to need science. We're always going to need literature to inform our decisions. But again, it's not a place to live. Like, don't unpack all your stuff and live there indefinitely. It really comes down to that internal perspective that you have about yourself and the balance that you're trying to achieve, the harmony that you're trying to achieve in life. And it's the same thing that I think we can start teaching our clients and communicating to them about the real value of something like that. Because sometimes those other pieces that don't get the attention are what's holding us back physically and not being able to live optimally in that respect. So there's just way too much focus on what we can see versus what we can feel. And I think that's a big mistake.
You are right on, doctor. And I just think you've got to work with someone where they're at. Like, that you're right about the numbers, like the numbers, like the bone. I feel like with the numbers, like for some people, the numbers are great. Like they are motivating, they help them. Other people, the numbers don't resonate at all. And just like we were talking about pre-show today, like how you ask questions and how you guide people it's so important to cater it to the client. Like we always go back to the fact that it is personal training, it's personal. And at the end of the day, the way that you speak to someone and guide them is way more valuable than what your stomach looks like under your shirt.
Right. And if you're worried about it, they make high-waisted pants now. I mean, seriously, like if we're going to get hung up on that, don't no one going to make any progress. All right. Like that's just the cold hard truth. And I think, Bev, since you and I are of the same generation, I had those perspectives when I was first in college. Like I have to look a certain way. I wish I could like grow 3 more inches. Well, that's never going to happen. I'm 5'2" and it's not going anywhere, unfortunately. But own it. Like own it. Be you. And I think that's the most courageous thing anyone can do, regardless of what profession they're in. I don't care if it's the fitness industry or it's some other type of business or it's education or it's something like that. Like you have to have the courage to stand in your truth and be who you are and focus more on the fact that you can be a quality trainer. There are a ton of us out there that know what we're doing, can program effectively, and have a ton of client success stories in absence of some physical feature that is so coveted that really does not mean anything. In the grand scheme of things, it does not mean anything.
So good. And Emily says very well said. She's applauding you. It should be about what we feel, not what we see, she says. And Shay, she says, call me Shay. That's what I thought. I just wasn't sure. Shay says you could also discuss functional core versus six-pack abs. Absolutely. Like just because someone has a six-pack doesn't mean they have a strong set of abs. I think that's what Shay is probably leaning towards, but correct me if I'm wrong. And then she says another topic could be female triad.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When we get to a point where, and we see this a lot in like female runners, gymnasts, those types of sports that almost demand a very low percentage of body fat, whether it's performance related or it's simply a product of that continuous training and how difficult it is on the body, we start to sacrifice some things physiologically. There's increased risk of injury, there's depression, there's the loss of a menstrual cycle. There's all these other factors that come out because we drop so low in terms of that percentage of body fat. And for whatever reason, body fat has always been seen as negative. Like everybody needs body fat, people. You can't function without it. and maybe it's the word fat. Maybe it, it's something negative with that particular term and terminology and phraseology that we use. But we have to have it, and that's seen in something like the female triad. You increase that body fat and you balance the physiology, female triad goes away. It takes some time, but nonetheless, that's the process. Like the body is demanding that type of tissue. It needs it, just like we need protein. We need glycogen. We need all of that. So
Absolutely.
you can whittle it down, but what else are you sacrificing to gain whatever physical coveted whatever appearance you're trying to go for?
I agree. That my midwife was telling me yesterday. Lots of fat, lots of healthy fat. And the book I'm reading right now, Fourth Trimester, which is all about the postpartum period, which the fourth trimester is the 3 months after baby's born. They just, other cultures douse women in oils and fat and bone broths and oily, because after you give birth, you have dispelled, so much. And like, my appreciation for fat continues to grow. And, just that it's like, and they make the connection between breast milk production, and this woman that wrote this book, Kimberly Ann Johnson, and I'm going off on a whole different subject that we should just do another show on, but I have to just mention this. It's just Kimberly Ann Johnson talks about how like women after they give birth, they go back to like eating salads and drinking smoothies. And she's like, after birth, you need warm, oily, wet, like she's like, and tons of it and fresh, and no salads, no smoothies, no boot camps, wet, oily, fresh, warm. It's like, yes, like that's what breast milk is, right? And I was surprised when I started breastfeeding, and I feel like this is on topic of fat. When I started breastfeeding last time, and I kept meeting so many women who are having trouble breastfeeding and having trouble making milk, and it's like now my eyes are opened. Like, yes, the way we're teaching people to eat is not appropriate for breastfeeding. Like, and anyway, I could go off on a whole, but like fat is good. And maybe we should do it. That should be our next show, is fat is good.
Fat is fat, PHAT.
Yeah. Edward just jumped in, 6-pack abs, not necessarily, and genetically speaking, it may not be possible. Trainers are walking billboards, although not able to have a perfect body. There should be an effort to work toward an aesthetic and look of being fit. Yeah, we are walking billboards, but I feel like that glow, like a glow in your face because you're healthy, and like a positive, like radiant personality goes way further. If someone is staring at your abs when they're talking to you instead of your face, then you got a boring personality. Oh, so what Shay says, just another topic. So and that being said, it is about time for us to wrap up this topic. We try to keep the shows around 20 minutes. So Erin and I will put our heads together and see what other topics we can have for you. And let's see. So we have a couple announcements. One is that the NFPT live show will be officially ending. We're going to do episode 59, episode 60, and then we're closing out. We're just going to take a break from live shows and maybe do something a little different with our content production. If you do have a topic that you would like us to cover, we have one more episode left that we haven't planned yet. We have some great topics in here, maybe fat. Maybe we will talk about fat. That might be a good episode. Next week, Wednesday at 10 o'clock, we are going to do a topic which some of you have contributed in. How long does it take to be a successful personal trainer? So we are putting this out there for people who are just getting into the industry about like how long does it take to get certified, and then how long until you can actually like sustain a living. And we got a poll, we got lots of different opinions from trainers that we'll be sharing with you. So please join us next week, or if you know someone who's just getting started in the industry or who needs that motivation to get certified, that would be a great episode. So we'll see you guys next week. And then the week after that, we have one more episode left. And then, we'll be doing some other ventures. So please make any suggestions. And if you liked this show, share it. Please share it. I think it's such a great topic, and we would love to get more input from y'all.
Definitely. Yes.
Sweet. Billy says, thanks. Erin, thank you for all of your wisdom and authenticity. And We'll see you guys next week.
You as well.